There is a paradox that repeats itself throughout the course of history. The most brilliant civilizations often end in the most chaotic collapse. Ancient Rome, once a symbol of power, intellect, and organization, fell into disorder and fragmentation, leaving behind a Europe plunged into centuries of darkness. Athens, the cradle of democracy and philosophy, met a similar fate, weakened and eventually consumed by more dominant forces. Even today, in a modern world where technology, knowledge, and freedom are celebrated more than ever, one cannot help but ask, are we truly progressing, or are we merely living through a brief golden age before inevitable decline? Why do societies that seem unshakable end up falling into chaos and ruin? The answer doesn't lie in surface-level events like wars or disasters. Those are often just the final tipping points. The real issue lies in a hidden pattern that most of us fail to see, a slow internal decay. It's a process in which core values are gradually eroded, collective thinking becomes complacent, and shared responsibility is replaced by compromise, indulgence, or indifference. When a society reaches its peak, it doesn't collapse because it lacks capability, but because it loses the ability to recognize what truly holds it together. And that complacency is what paves the way for chaos.
When a society reaches the pinnacle of intellect, it carries within it the legacy of generations of effort and aspiration. This is the stage where the education system not only produces skilled professionals, but also cultivates critical thinking, civic ethics, and the spirit of enlightenment. Science flourishes with world-changing discoveries. Art not only reflects life, but elevates the human soul. A brilliant society is one where beauty, truth, and innovation coexist and are equally respected. Material life in such societies is often abundant. People have housing, food, healthcare, and technology, all at levels that previous generations could only dream of. Personal freedom becomes a foundational value. You can speak, write, and live as you wish, as long as you do not infringe on the rights of others. Society is no longer bound by theocratic control or outdated oppression. Instead, reason, the rule of law, and faith in progress gradually become the norm. However, it is precisely in this golden age that the seeds of decline often begin to take root, quietly, invisibly. And this is something very few people within the system see, or are willing to see. If you find this topic compelling and want to explore more about the rise and fall of civilizations, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective, because understanding the past is not just a lesson, it's a way to protect the future from the very mistakes we keep repeating.
One of the most dangerous illusions modern societies often fall into is the belief we are different. We've learned from the past. Civilizations like Rome, Babylon, or ancient dynasties may have collapsed, but that won't happen to us. This is a deep-seated sense of complacency, nurtured by technological progress, scientific achievements, and the widespread adoption of liberal values. It convinces people today that history is something we've left behind, rather than something still unfolding within our own society. But this very belief clouds our ability to see the early signs of internal decline. People begin to take core values like democracy, the rule of law, and truth for granted, assuming they will endure without effort. Many believe that with enough technology, data, and regulation, any crisis can be managed. But history has never collapsed because it lacked tools. It collapses because of a lack of awareness, a lack of responsibility, and a lack of humility in the face of our own limits. The phrase, "we've moved beyond history," is a sweet illusion, but also a dangerous lullaby. Because the moment you believe you're immune to the laws of history is the same moment you begin to walk the path once taken by the most brilliant civilizations of the past, just before they disappeared.
In the continuous flow of social history, certain turning points occur silently, but leave profound consequences. One of the most significant transformations in the modern era is the shift in social mindset from a spirit of responsibility to a trend of individualization, indulgence, and a growing detachment from collective discipline. In the past, responsibility was at the core of how people related to society. An individual was judged not only by personal competence, but also by their contributions to the collective. Values such as sacrifice, community service, discipline, and integrity served as guiding principles for social behavior. Families, schools, and social institutions all work together to reinforce the belief that everyone had a duty to others, to the community, and to the future of the society in which they lived. However, from the late 20th century onward, the rise of consumerism, the rapid development of mass media and social networks triggered a powerful wave of mental transformation. People increasingly tended to prioritize the self over the we, abandoning communal bonds and social responsibilities in pursuit of personal gratification. Enjoyment became a measure of success, and happiness was defined more by material comfort, convenience, and entertainment than by purpose or contribution. Individualism, once a positive element of liberal thought, has been pushed to the extreme. Instead of encouraging personal growth tied to social responsibility, it has led to the rejection of shared norms and the elevation of absolute self-interest. Discipline is now often seen as restrictive, rules as oppressive, and any limitations are viewed as infringements on personal freedom. The me-centered culture has resulted in people no longer caring about the consequences of their actions on the wider community.